Hey, it's Phil Stacy, executive sports editor of the Salem News. Welcome to our podcast, weekly podcast, which we didn't do last week, but we normally do. So, hey, we're allowed a mulligan in sports parlance here. Nick Giannino, sports editor of the Gloucester Times. Matt Williams, my assistant sports editor at the Salem News. Gentlemen, happy Halloween. Happy eve of playoff games and whatnot. How you both doing?
Good. Happy Halloween. 78 degrees outside.
Gotta love it. Gotta
Gotta
love
love
it.
Warm, warm.
Nick, well, it's actually a great day too, as you can tell by my Dodgers hat. I'm not a fan, but I am definitely a fan of anything anti-Yankee. I got this on my honeymoon in Hawaii, believe it or not, 20 years ago. I guess being closest to Hawaii, they're probably Hawaii's team, I assume, or maybe the Padres or something like that. But it's always a great day when see the Yankees lose in the World Series, especially on their home field. And this being Halloween, it just got me thinking. Pull out the hat. If I can do a little Schadenfreude and celebrate the vile, duplicitous, morally bankrupt organization that the Yankees are by stepping on their grave a little bit, then I say, let's do it. So there we go.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I am all for it too. All right, Nick, I'm going to hand you the keys today. Why don't you run the podcast and what's on your mind?
Well, you mentioned eve of state tournament time. We got some games starting up Friday, tomorrow, or whenever. Are we posting this today? Either way, Friday. We got our volleyball and field hockey brackets all set for all the divisions for the state tournament. So why don't we start there? Because we haven't gotten any boys soccer or girls soccer pairings yet. The brackets will be finalized likely tomorrow, I believe.
Tomorrow afternoon, yeah. Well,
Afternoon.
they'll come out. I mean, as to when we will get the dates and times is kind of
Correct.
like work in progress.
If they come out, there's another lawsuit, so we might be
Another
waiting.
one. Yeah, we had the delay for the volleyball and field hockey, but that was taken care of yesterday and moved right along with those brackets. So yeah, let's start there.
Well, let me ask you guys what you think about that, by the way. I mean, is this a precedent now being set where, and Willie, I'm literally just first hearing this about the new one. Is it same type deal like Western Mass and
Correct. Yeah. So basically the Western Mass tournament,
they have their own tournament?
you are supposed to put TBD on your schedule that you submit officially to the MIAA. And if you don't do that, then you got to forfeit those games, which has been, a long-standing policy. These schools, I guess a block of them agreed to that. They played the games. Two of the block of schools sued to have the games counted as they were played for field hockey and maybe volleyball too. So those two schools got their injunction. Their games are counted as played. The other block of the teams out there that were in the same boat, they're still taking the forfeits. And so now, as I understand it today, Thursday, there's a bunch of soccer teams that are in that boat with the forfeits that said, wow, oh, geez, the precedent's been set. Minichog won its field hockey case, so I'm going to bring the exact same case for soccer. So it seems to me that this judge out there has really screwed this up, opened up a whole can of worms, and this is not good. This will not affect football in any way, shape, or form because there is no Western Mass tournament for football,
Right.
so that's not a thing. But if this doesn't fast track here on Thursday for soccer, then we could be looking at the same kind of delay problem that we had with the field hockey and volleyball. So, I don't know if it's going to be, good for the goose, good for the gander automatic, or if they're going to go through the permutations of the arguments and this, that, and the third. So, not good. As I understand it, the case was made that in the past you didn't have to necessarily put TBD for these Western Mass games. This feels like the kind of thing that could have really been easily solved with a phone call. Hey, you forgot to put TBD. Let's add TBD. Okay, great. Sounds good. You know, I, I don't understand how it got to this point. Obviously, not being a reporter in Western Mass, I don't have like all the details, but this seems like the kind of thing that really easily could have been solved. And I have heard a few people say the MIA gave these schools, 4, 5, 6 emails saying, "Hey, fix this, fix this, fix this," and they didn't. Which, if that's the case, shame on them. You're a school administrator getting paid probably high 5 figures, if not 6 figures, and you can't get your schedule right. I mean, that's, what are we doing? So, I just think shame on everybody, and
Sounds like the old Saul Rosenberg defense, sue everybody.
kinda, yeah. And you know what? Like, as an Eastern Mass honk out here that hates the statewide tournament, why does Western Mass need its own tournament that's going to cause all these problems in the schedules and do this kind of nonsense? Like, okay, let's get rid of that.
Well, that's what I was
no
thinking, and I can't pretend to know all the mechanisms about it and whatnot, but I would assume from afar, sitting in our lair in northeastern Massachusetts, that this is done because and it's not like this is new. I think they've been doing it for years, but far fewer schools out there. It gives more teams a chance to participate and have a sense of the postseason before they get into the regular season. But you're right. I mean, as times change and the playoff system in the state has changed, why are we still running a Western Mass tournament? Again, that's an easy solution for me to say here, but it does seem, looking at it from afar without a horse in the race, like, why don't you just do away with it?
Well, especially if it's going to have a domino effect and hold up everybody's playoffs. There are teams that are playing today, Thursday, that didn't find out their seeding until yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, it just, like, if you're going to do your own thing, and it's almost like you know, freedom of expression, freedom of speech argument. It's like, hey, do whatever you want until it starts affecting other people. And we've reached the point where it's affecting other people now.
Well, that's what I wonder. I mean, is it like, so let's just say, I don't know, in the soccer situation, there are 5 schools affected. Does that mean that the other 200 and whatever schools are like, hey, figure it out, get your stuff together here. Let's go.
Yeah. Well,
You're
and
holding the rest of us up.
That's what happens with power rankings too, because if you change one score of one team, that's going to change that team's rating, and then it's going to change the rating of all the teams that team played against, and then all the teams that team played. So it's with a power rating system, I mean, every game has a ripple effect, and that's why this was important to decide, before they set the brackets out there. But yeah, I mean, it just sounds like, I mean, as far as like just getting the TBD on the schedule, like this feels like something that really should have been solved, 6 weeks ago, with a couple of phone calls.
All right, Nick, back to your original inquiry.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to
Good
add.
discussion,
I think it's ridiculous, but yeah, we'll move on. So the brackets are out for field hockey and for volleyball. Why don't we start with some volleyball? Because we don't have a ton of teams, but we got some playoff teams in the area. Anyone that we feel like can make a deep run? I know we spoke about this maybe a week or two ago, coming down the regular season stretch, and there's a few teams, that might have what it takes. But who stands out to you guys?
Well, I mean, Ipswich has to be, at the top of that conversation. They've won 46 matches in a row. They're 3-time defending state champions at the Division 4 level. They have a new head coach in Brian Reed, but they blew through the regular season, 18-0. Interestingly, they are seeded second in Division 2 behind Bellingham, which they defeated in the state final last year. They appear to be on a collision course again to reach the final. But, I guess that will play out. But they clearly have to be at the top of that list in terms of who we're looking at in terms of a good state title run. Willie, who else would you say? Maybe like Masconomet could make a nice run, Bishop Fenwick, Marblehead. Who am I forgetting there?
Yeah, I mean,
Can't
that's
remember.
so Ipswich is our only top 10 seed.
I was going to ask. I thought that was
You,
the
you
case.
know, Fenwick is 11th, which is not, not bad. But it's hard. You get to that, you get out of that first round, and then you're, heading on the road. I mean, you're talking 11 goes where to like 3 or 4, like so 4, right? So that's hard. Like that's not a great thing. Danvers is an interesting team, only in the
Yeah,
sense that at 24, if they get by their preliminary round game, they go to number 9, which happens to be Newburyport, right? So that's Newburyport's a really good team, but that's a familiar foe. That's a short bus ride. I'd much rather take my chances going to Newburyport than going down to Old Rochester or out to Medfield or something like this. So I think that breaks reasonably well for Danvers, and I think they've played a lot of top seeds in the regular season. Haven't beaten a lot of them, but I don't think they're going to be intimidated. So I think that's a relatively good draw for them, just in terms of like location and familiarity.
I know it's been a really good fall for Newburyport sports in general, like kind of across the board. They've really done well this year. I'm just curious if they have any crossover opponents with Danvers
I think
infield.
Newburyport actually beat Masco, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so there's that.
I think they swept Masco, if I'm not mistaken, and they played Peabody, I know, twice. Um, Actually, I take that back. They split with Masco. They won 3-0, and then earlier they had lost 3-0, and then they um, defeated Peabody twice by a couple of 3-1 scores. So, yeah, there's some crossover there, I guess.
Davis might have played Essex Tech or maybe not, but yeah, I mean, so I think that's like, if you're gonna have to go play a top 10 seed, that's about as good as you can hope for. I think, the rest of the teams is kind of tough. I mean, Masconomet, I think gets Silver Lake, right? And then,
Yeah,
the second round's going to be really tough for them, even though they've had a great season. Marblehead's got to go down to Dartmouth, which again, like just good team, but really tough draw in terms of the travel and, that kind of stuff. So, um, you know, I'm not, it's a winnable game, certainly, but, it's going to be hard to follow. I mean, that far away.
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
All right, so that's volleyball for you. We had the field hockey as well, and that's where we I think have some good teams as well. I'll just kick things off with the Cape Ann area so I can
Yeah,
get some
please.
here. We had 2 out of the 3 schools, Gloucester and Manchester Essex, get in. Gloucester, just speaking with head coach Lauren Riley Gove, kind of a rebuilding year for them. Actually, big rebuilding year for them. They got 1 senior on the team. They're relying on some key sophomores, some freshmen. It's been a balanced attack, and their defense has been really good. I've been looking at, I looked through their schedule, just going down all the scores, and they only let up 4 goals once. That was a 4-2 loss to Masco, a very good team, and then they lost to Masco on another occasion, 3-2. And those are the only games all season in which they allowed at least 3 goals. So they've been, either winning 2-0, losing 2-1, a lot of low scoring games. And I think the goal scoring for them has come along a little bit. But like I said, big rebuild year for them, and for them to get into the tournament, I think as the number 23 seed in Division 3 was pretty good. And they're going to have to go on the road this Saturday to Bedford, which isn't too far, so that makes it a little bit easier. And Bedford's obviously a good team. When you're seated down low like that in the 20s, you're obviously going to face some pretty good competition right out of the gate. So they're going to take on a Bedford team that's ranked number 10. And I think they're a team that's, if they can put a couple balls in the back of the cage, they're going to have a good chance to win just because of that defense. Emma Pachosa doing a great job leading the way back there with Talia Harrington. Both earned NEC All-Conference or All-Star status. And you got Keegan Jewell, the goalie, only a junior, and she's already got the shutout record for Gloucester High field hockey for her career, 35 shutouts. I think the previous record was somewhere in the low 20s, so she shattered that record. And they're coming up with a lot of, clean sheets and a lot of low scoring games against some strong opponents. So we'll see what Gloucester can do. But if nothing else, it's just good experience for them and the young team heading into next year, because they're going to have pretty much everyone back. And then quickly, just Manchester Essex obviously had a phenomenal year in the Cape Ann League, finished with a 14-2-2 record, a lot of big wins. They took the number 5 seed in Division 4, and they're going to get a home game against little-known Sturgis Charter East. So I imagine they're going to win that one, and that could set up potentially
with Ipswich.
a matchup with Ipswich in the second round. I'd have to look at the regular season schedule and see how those games played out. I think they were competitive. But
the Ipswich and Manchester games this year?
Yeah.
They were pair 1-0 games, both won by Manchester.
There you go. So that could be an interesting take in round 2. 2 Cal teams, very familiar with each other. And obviously Ipswich is hosting their first round game too against Bellingham. We'll see how that shakes out. But both of those games are Saturday, late afternoon. So we'll know by Saturday night if we're going to see that matchup. And, the story obviously out of Manchester is Abby Kent. So you did the final regular season field hockey leaders yesterday, and she took the cake, right? 31 points, I think it was, 16 or 15.
Yeah, 31, one more than Mia Marks of Masconomet. Yeah.
Okay, and I spoke with Abby a couple weeks ago. She committed to Holy Cross, so Division I program for her. Talented player, shares the ball well, and she's one of those girls that you really got to key on if your opponents. And I'm sure that anyone in the Division 4 draw is going to know who she is and be on the lookout for her. And then we mentioned the goalie in Gloucester. They also have a very talented goalie in Bridget Caravallano in the Manchester Essex net. So that's a team that they can get by Ipswich in that second round. They could make some noise.
That Division 4 bracket is loaded too. Uxbridge is the top seed. A lot of people think they could be the best team in the state in Division 4. So that's a minefield that, if Manchester were to advance, say, to like the semifinals, they'd probably see them. You have 2 unbeaten teams at 2 and 3 in Monomoy and Sutton High School. I know Frontier Regional's right up there. So that's going to be a really tough bracket.
Yeah, and even Linfield, another Cal team, had a really strong season.
That's right.
They could be, right in the mix as well. So,
but that potential Ipswich Manchester second round game would be pretty cool to see, I would think.
Yeah, and we should mention Hamilton Wenham got in Division 4 as well, number 19 seed.
Yep.
They're going to be going on the road, it looks like, to St. John Paul II next Monday. So that's all the way out in Barnstable. Tough draw for the Generals, but on sub 500 record for them in a really competitive Cape Ann League this year, and they still got in as a top 20 seed. So,
yep,
pretty good. Why don't we look at Division 2, because I know Masco it had obviously a great season and only able to get up to the number 15 seed.
Yeah, again, another really tough bracket in there when you're looking at teams like Somerset, Berkeley, and Norwood, and Neshoba, Notre Dame of Hingham, Canton, teams like that. But Masco did test itself outside the conference. That's where 4 of their 5 losses came from this year. By playing those better teams, getting a feel of that good competition and all. As I mentioned, they have Mia Marks with 30 points. They have Mia Giuliano, team captain. She's got 16 goals. Ava Garvan has played really well for them. Savannah Stevens, who along with Giuliano is a captain. She's chipped in offensively while holding down the defense in front of the sophomore goalie, Sabrina Caffarelli. So I think it's a team that will come in ready to go, no matter who they're taking on in the postseason. And, of course, in the first round, we know that's going to be a home game at the Boxford Turf on Friday afternoon against Leominster. That sets up a possible second-round matchup with that Somerset Berkeley team I mentioned. That's the number 2 seed. So, it's not going to be easy this time of year for anybody who gets in that's not a top seed, but that's why you play these games.
And nice to have a home game still sneaking in with that at 15. They got they bypass the preliminary round and are able to host. So
absolutely, yeah.
Wouldn't want to go out to Leominster in round 1. That'd be tough.
No.
All right, and then we'll just jump to Division 3. We got any teams?
Nobody in 3, just Beverly
Nobody.
and Essex Tech in Division 1.
Yeah, just as an aside, only I think only 3 NEC teams qualified for the field hockey tournament: Beverly, Masco, and Gloucester.
Yeah, that's right, because Danvers didn't. Swampscott missed it just barely.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
no Marblehead. So yeah,
No, so Essex Tech, they're on the road. They'll be at Wachusett in a Division 1, excuse me, first round matchup.
now why are
Solid
they
season.
Division 1? Did we decipher this? How is that possible?
Size of the school and Tech
Yeah.
school with the amount of kids they have.
All right.
Shouldn't be for tournament purposes. No
No,
way,
it's
shape,
kind
or
of crazy.
form. But so they have some solid players. A couple of seniors that have done a lot of the scoring there with Samantha McClure, Ella Tucker, junior Alice Stansfield, I think, has 8 goals. Giovanna Barrows has another 6. Natalie Partalau has kind of taken the reins in goals. She's a senior. She's had a really good season. And they played everybody tough. You know, they've been scant few games that have gotten away from them. So they'll go into this one as the underdog. If they can pull off an upset, great for them. I mean, they did tie Manchester Essex earlier in the season.
Yeah, true.
So you never know what could happen there. And then you have Beverly, which is, they've had their best season in forever. They're 16-2. They're co-champions of the Northeastern Conference with Masconomet. They get the player of the year in the conference and senior captain Elliot Lund. They got all kinds of scoring behind Lund and Maddie LeBlanc and Ava Conan and Morgan Linsky and Fiona Bazin and Mary Kapnis. Really good goaltender in Charlotte Stevens. Excellent defender and freshman Avery LeBlanc. They could cause some problems in this tournament. They're a sneaky good team, I feel like. Second round matchup with Andover, which is really a state power. They're number 4 in the rankings. Second round, should they get past their first round game on Monday afternoon against Arlington, which I would think they would. So that sets up as a really interesting second round match. But hey, good on the Panthers, especially under the first year coach Danielle Hartford. They've really had a good season.
Sweet. We'll see what unfolds there. I think we hold off on the soccer probably until next week. I know the brackets will be out, like we said, hopefully tomorrow and Friday, but we have a pretty good idea of where our teams are. And I'd say we got a lot of soccer teams that are going to be in the mix this year. Some good ones.
Yeah, who would you guys say, like, Willie for the girls and Nick for the boys? Who would you guys say would be top 3 teams chasing a realistic shot at chasing a title this year?
Well, you got to start with St. John's Prep in Division 1. They had they had 1 loss, I think, and about 3 or 4 ties this year, but that's a team that is just always going to be in the mix based on the talent that comes in each year. And I know they shuffled up a lot of pieces, but Dave Kroll always finds the right roles for his guys, and it seems like they're playing some good soccer down the stretch. They got another Catholic Conference championship. They're going to have a couple home games to start, top 5 seed in Division 1. So I think you start there, and then in the NEC, it's got to be Masco and Marblehead and Beverly. Let's start with the Panthers. Are they in Division 1 this year? They are. They're going to have they had a great year, 11-4-2. They won an NEC title, and they're going to be somewhere around 20 to 22. It looks like in the rankings, but I like that Beverly team. I think they could win a round or 2 in Division 1, and who knows? Maybe we get that matchup again between St. John's Prep and Beverly in Division 1 in the second round. We don't know the brackets yet, but it looks like that's a possibility that it could shake out that way. And then we talk about the Magicians of Marblehead a lot this year. They really challenged themselves with a lot of out of conference schedule. A lot of out of conference matchups. 10-2-6 year for them. A lot of draws. 6 on the schedule there, but they're going to be likely a top 10 seed in Division 2, and they got some firepower.
Top 5 seed.
What's that?
I mean, they were ranked 3rd in the latest power rankings, weren't they?
Marblehead, no, they're at 10 right now.
Oh, they had been 3, right?
They had been up as far as 3. Yeah, I think some of those ties might have hurt them a little bit, but competitive season for them nonetheless. I mean, they've been in every game, whether they win, lose, or tie. So that's a team that, like I said, has some firepower, has some different guys. Miles Fontella Tuttle's the first name that comes to mind for me. He's been leading the way for them, but obviously a stellar goalkeeper in Rory Zampies. I know Elmer Magana was pushing for him for player of the year. He's been that good in net. Talented kid, probably going to play in college. So look out for the Magicians in D2, and then Masco, just ho-hum 14-2-2 season for them. They're actually seated below Marblehead, probably because of that out-of-conference schedule that Marblehead played. But, number probably going to be top 14 seed. They're at 13 right now, and that's another team that I could make a run, that I think could make a run. And then just in the Cape Ann quickly for boys soccer before I let you talk about some girls, Willie. Manchester Essex, fantastic season for them. They snuck into the tournament last year with, I think, 4 or 5 wins. They had a lot of ties, and in Division 4, based on their schedule, competitive in the Cape Ann League, they were able to get in. But this year, they just flipped the script, 14-3-1, and Sammy Bothwell, their senior captain, striker, super talented player. He scored 7 goals in their final 2 games and actually broke the program record at Manchester for goals in a season with 27. So he broke the record by his former teammate, Naderson Curtis, who had that record of 26, graduated a few years ago. They played when Sammy was a freshman. He was a senior, kind of a mentor for him. So it's cool to see him, break that record. And now he's gunning for the all-time goals record at Manchester. I think he needs 8 more goals. So he'll be hard-pressed to do that in the tournament, but you never know if some of these teams, haven't scouted enough and don't know about him. He's a really talented kid that can put the ball in the back of the net, and they're a top 10 seed in Division 4. So I think they're capable of making a run. Willie, how about the girls soccer just quickly? I like I said, we don't have to spend too much time on this because the brackets aren't out yet, but we've talked a lot about Masco in past weeks, and that's obviously a team that's up to number 2 or 3 in the state now.
Yeah, I mean, so if I was going to pick 3 teams that could make a deep run, I mean, Masco obviously is first with a bullet. I mean, they have the 3rd highest power ranking in the entire state. They've been pretty much wire to wire number 1 in Division 2, 3rd consecutive undefeated regular season. They've taken a step forward in the state tournament every year, right? So the first undefeated regular season, I think they lost in the round of 8. Last year lost in the final 4. So, you continue that trajectory. They should be in the state final, and with the kind of team they have, they really should win it. So, I mean, it starts with them. Division 3, I don't think you can overlook Danvers. I mean, they're a number 5 seed right now. Took it on the chin against a really good Brookline team in their regular season finale, but had been playing really good soccer outside of that. And Brookline's a top 20 team in Division 1. So they're not going to see anybody like that in the Division 3 playoffs, that's for sure. So, the number 5 seed gets you a couple of home games, and then you hope for the best in the next round. And I think, when you have Georgia Prouty, you have a chance to beat anybody if she has a game. I mean, teams that maybe don't have tape on her or aren't prepared to mark her properly. The discrepancy between Georgia's 37 points and Danvers' next highest score is a little bit greater than it's been in years past, and a little bit greater than I'd like it to be. But, when you have that player, lightning can strike, and you can just steal a game. I mean, that's how good, she is. And that's something that all teams are going to have to contend with. I should shout out Saugus very quickly. Saugus, number 8 in the Division 3 girls soccer rankings. That's got to be the highest ranking any Saugus team has had, like in the power ranking era. That's pretty impressive. I know Madison Botta's a tremendous score for them, as 100 points in her career. So it'll be very interesting to see if the Sachems can kind of have some NEC pride and carry that thing through. And then the 3rd team I would shout out is Hamilton Wenham. They have completed their 2nd consecutive unbeaten regular season at 14-0-4. Very stingy defensively, very spread out up top on offense. Tessa Hunt and Annie Moynihan kind of carried the load in the first half of the season. Georgia Wilson's come on like gangbusters. She's over 20 points on the season, with the vast majority of those in the last 8 games. So at the moment, they are the number 2 seed. They were 5th last year, undefeated. So ratcheted up their schedule a little bit, played Peabody, played Beverly. I want to say beat both or maybe tied Beverly. So that helped them in the power rankings, obviously. And anytime you're a number 1, 2, 3, 4 seed, you got an opportunity to go deep. They've got Linfield here, number 3. That was the round of 8 game a year ago. I know we've talked about that a lot, so that could match up as a Final Four rematch between these Cal rivals. The Generals did steal the Cal Baker title from Linfield because Linfield had a couple of losses and Hamilton Wenham only had the ties. So shout out to the Gens. Again, like the shadow that Masco casts is pretty wide and they get a lot of attention, suck up a lot of oxygen in the soccer world. But, Hamilton Wenham is going to be right there again. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 years of this power ranking system, they've been a top 5 seed, top 10 seed, won a state title in 2021, and they're going to be right there, at the end in the final 8, final 4, or beyond again this year. And that's really without much of a home field too. So shout out to them. I mean, they're playing on a very small patch of grass there at Iron Rail, and then having a fine practice turf that all their tournament games are going to be on turf. So, their spacing and their speed, they've had to kind of play with a little bit. The Hamilton boys are in the same boat, but I mean, to weather that storm and win state titles, hey, you know what? The Hamilton Wenham tennis teams have won a bunch of state titles without a home field. So maybe that's like the secret sauce, Michael's Space Jam juice there in Hamilton.
Could be. All right. Before we get to our end of the podcast, blind rankings, let's just touch on a couple football games this week. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts about St. John's Prep because they're coming off a drubbing by Catholic Memorial, and now they got to take on an undefeated BC High team this week. How did they bounce back, and what happened in that game last week?
Willie, you were there. I mean, why don't you start?
Well, I think St. John's kind of ran into reality a little bit with Catholic Memorial. I think, number one, Catholic Memorial was kind of mad about last year, the way they played, the way St. John's kind of, what's the word, emasculated them a little bit, pushed them around, ran the ball, stopped the run, was tougher. And CM was like, yeah, that's not going to happen again. And the Prep really couldn't do anything about it. So do I think that the teams are that far apart? 34 points? No, I don't. I mean, if you don't turn the ball over 4 times in the second half, if you don't squander a bad punt that gives you the ball at the 19-yard line, I mean, that was the game. CM's up 7, bad snap on a punt, Prep takes over at the 19. You think they're going in to score. This is a game and they're stealing momentum. CM says, no, they don't even give them a first down. And it was kind of all downhill from there. So, if St. John's takes advantage of those opportunities, is it more of a 1-score, 2-score, 10-point kind of differential? Yes, I think so. So I don't think St. John's is as bad as they played, but I think that their skill positions are not prepared to be on the level with the Catholic Memorial. Now, what does that mean? They're still better than, 95% of the high school football teams in Massachusetts. So, they got to shake that out. They got to get mad. They got to go prove something. I mean, they got to establish the run because that's what opens up the passing game for them. And, again, as Coach St. Pierre said, the offense just wasn't good enough at any position on any level. I'm not trying to call out like individual kids or position groups or whatever, but they just got to be better. And I think this is a very interesting game in the sense that, again, like from my perch, I've kind of looked at BC High all season with side eyes and said, when they play Xaverian, when they play the Prep, like, they're not ready for prime time. They're overrated here a little bit. And, they beat Xaverian and now they get a chance to go out and beat the Prep. So, what I kind of took as what would not be a huge game for the Prep has now become a huge game for the Prep. And so they are definitely, going to have to come out and put this tough performance last week behind them.
Well, and another team, Willie, that I'm sure we'll come into Glassfield angry. Prep put up 56 points last year on BC High in the playoffs.
Well, they had to, right? What did BC score? 30 something? I mean, they were ahead at one point, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it was more under a different BC High coaching staff. The game was already well in hand. They still just starters in against the backups, trying all this nonsense. Calling timeout with 6 seconds left when you're down 20 something points. Just, ridiculous stuff kind of thing. But, for those kids who are still around, I'm sure they're like, hey, they pounded us last year. We're undefeated this year. They're coming off a loss. Let's keep them, pinned down. For all the same reasons Willie said, I think, it could ultimately be the best thing that ever happened to St. John's. I mean, they lost to CM 3 years ago, week 6 of the regular season, I want to say it was, and they ran the table. Now, this team does not have the collection of players that team did. But having said that, no, 21 or 22, 22, right? Yeah, 22, 2 years ago. I think they need to, come up with some better schemes defensively in certain, or they weren't defensively where they wanted to be in certain spots last Saturday, from what I'm hearing. Got to establish the run game, as you said. I mean, they're tough up front, but can they open those holes for, the Quigleys and the Trivias and the Garcias to run through, the Mannons to run through? It was the first real time that the freshman wonderkind at quarterback, Chris Vargas, it didn't work out the way that everyone wanted to for him. He threw what, 2 interceptions, Willie? 3 interceptions?
2, yeah.
Okay. And hey, I know we've said this a million times. He's a freshman. He's 15. But that was a major test that he and the offense need to learn from. Even the great Merrick Barlow, the captain, he was really held in check. When he had 1 catch for 2 yards, Willie. They really seemed to have blanketed him, very much so. So there's a lot for St. John's Prep to get on track. But hey, if you're looking at the plus side of it, they're at home Friday night. I assume it's a senior night game. Last game of the regular season for them to get right. So we'll see what they bring to this game, and ultimately what they're made of.
Theoretically, if they win, they can hope BC beats CM and still snare a Catholic Conference like tri championship.
Yeah,
if
because
they
they're
beat
playing what, the night
Superior
before
too.
Thanksgiving.
So, yeah, it ends up being a huge game in that regard. So,
Right.
which we kind of didn't note this too much, but that is also true for our friends in Danvers. Should they defeat Marblehead, we
That's
kind
right.
of wrote them off, assuming they'd lose another conference game someplace, but they'd still just have the 1 conference loss. So, technically speaking, Danvers is still alive in that NEC Dunn title chase as they host Marblehead on Friday night. So that's certainly an interesting game to watch as well, too.
Not to mention a big game for their rankings, right? They're hanging on to that 13 seed. I know they got some separation from the likes of Norton and Gloucester below them, but that could, I don't know how the system works entirely, but the loss to Marblehead, that could bump them down a couple spots.
Short of getting blown out, I don't think it will, just because Marblehead has played so well. Marblehead wins, they'll be 6-2. That those points will actually help Danvers. But again, you don't want to lose 34-0 or anything like that.
Right. Which I don't think will happen, but I digress.
Yeah, I don't think they'd fall all the way out, but obviously, as with most of these things, you want to get up as high as you can. You don't want to go play. You don't want to go play Foxborough. That's a tough task. So,
right. Yeah, and just sticking in D5. I mean, huge game for Gloucester this week. They're at 5-2, but just hanging on to that 15 seed. I don't think a loss, even against a good Winthrop team this Friday, would bump them out of that top 16. They got a pretty good gap from the Medway, North Middlesex, Northeast Tech schools below them in terms of their overall rating, but still a big game. You want to win that one. You're at home. Winthrop's coming in, having a pretty good season. They're in the mix in their bracket. I think Winthrop comes in at 4-3, but if definitely faced a more challenging schedule than Gloucester, and that's nothing against the Fishermen. They've strung together a nice year here, and they're still getting it done without their leading rusher, or he's not their leading rusher anymore, but he was when he got hurt in Jalen Severino. And Joe Allen and Josh Cribbs and those guys have really stepped up. They had a nice win over Falmouth last week, on the same night that they were honoring their new Athletic Hall of Fame class. So that was cool. And I also thought it was interesting, too, just as a side note, that Paul Ingram was honored. The legendary Gloucester coach there was one of the 10 inductees in this year's Hall of Fame class. And
Yeah,
he, I believe, played at Falmouth. I know he coached them at one point. So it was kind of interesting that, those two teams went against each other while he was honored that night. That was pretty cool. But yeah, they're going to have a big test against Winthrop, and we'll see. If they can keep it close at least and give themselves a chance in the fourth quarter there, I think that's a pretty strong opponent. And we might see Severino back in action. I know he was getting closer. If anything, they would just like him to be able to kick and punt, because they got no backup punter, no backup kicker. They're having to go for two on all these touchdown drives, and having a good punter makes all the difference when you don't want to give teams good field position on the plus side. So that could be big, something to look out for if Severino's back in uniform. Any other games?
If it would have stayed the way it is right now, Nick, they'd be going down to face Hanover for a second straight year. They went down there last year as the 16 seed.
That's right. Yeah, didn't go so well for them last year, but I do think there's an improved team, and they're really committed to that wing T run game, and have had some impressive, methodical drives, eating up a ton of time off the clock. And like I said, if they get Severino back, that just opens a lot of things up. That brings back the big play potential for that offense. Because without him, they haven't had a ton of breakaway plays. It's been 5-6 yards here, 4 or 5 yards here, kind of move the ball slowly, and it's worked. And don't get me wrong, but it'd be nice to have that an option to go outside and kind of let Severino show off his speed. So we'll see what happens with that. They should be in the playoffs regardless of what happens, like we said, against Winthrop, and he'll have another week to get ready. So we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, any other games we want to touch on? We talked about Marblehead, Danvers, Swampscott, Salem. It doesn't look like Salem really has a shot to climb the rankings and get in, but obviously Swampscott right in the mix. It's a decent NEC matchup there.
Yeah, the only two guys to reach 1,000 yards already this season in that game, with Bernal for the Witches and Von Barta for the Big Blue. So I would imagine the ball will be in the air quite a bit.
There you go. Well, we should touch on Masco's Fabiano. We just took home our Moynihan Moynihan Lumber Student Athlete of the month for September. Just looking at his stats, so it ended up being he has 4 games over 150, 160 yards rushing. He's up over 1,000 yards rushing for the season. Kind of a surprise season by him. I mean, do you think we expected this from Jack with the Chieftains? I know they're coming off a loss to Marblehead, but still a good season for them, and he's been carrying the load. No thoughts on Jack Fabiano?
We have to go back and look at the crystal ball. I mean, I think I had him for total offense, maybe not for rushing. I think I maybe thought he'd be, more of a Swiss Army knife guy and less of a carry the ball 25 times a night guy. But geez, he's been really impressive, and they get the bye this week, and can kind of lick their wounds a little bit. I mean, Division III is a minefield playoff wise. I mean, no matter who they play, and they'll get a home game, but it's going to be a tough opponent. Should be an interesting, really good matchup.
All right. Well, on that note, let's move on. We could talk sports all day here. I think we covered a lot. So why don't we do our blind ranking? I wanted to, get in the spirit a little bit today, Halloween day. I figured we could do blind ranking of Halloween candies.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So let me write these down here. I'll start it off.
Would this be the candy lineup?
Yeah, we'll call it the candy lineup. There's so many out there; it's going to be tough to pick 5. So I'm going to throw in some ridiculous ones. But we'll start with. a crowd favorite. Let's go, and I know you like these, Phil, so I'm curious to see where you rank them. But how about the M&Ms?
Yeah, I like M&Ms. I mean, they're not my favorite, but it's a solid 3. Are we talking just regular M&Ms?
Yeah, regular M&Ms.
Not almond or peanut butter or anything like that. Yeah, regular M&Ms. Yeah, always a
Yeah, the
solid
classic M&Ms.
go-to. A solid 3. I'm never going to turn down a handful of M&Ms.
All right, Willie.
I'm gonna put them at 4. I mean, a little boring for me.
Okay.
I like a little more pack a punch. Just the chocolate. A little boring.
Would
All
you
right.
get them in the blizzards when the Cobra would make those for us?
See, I would no, I would want something else in there. Something with a little bit of a kick, a caramel, a gooiness. Something. Yeah, just the chocolate. Like it's a glorified chocolate chip, kinda. So that's why I put it number
Yeah,
4.
nothing wrong with that. But
All right, I'm gonna go with one that I think is kind of underrated, and I don't know if it should be even on this top 5 list, but let's go with the Crunch Bar,
like the Nestle Crunch,
Nestle Crunch Bar.
yeah, 2, real good.
You like that? Okay,
Yeah, I do.
Those are great.
The what is it, like the malted rice or whatever is in the yeah, gives you a little bit of crunch there. That's solid.
I used to love the ones at the movie theater, like the little Crunch
The
bites.
bites, yeah, yeah.
Oh, those are good. All right, Willie, where do you got the Crunch Bar?
I put a 3. Same reason. Like it's got a little more interestingness than the M&M, but it's still like not just the chocolate's a little bit not perfect for me.
All right, we'll go with another bar here. One of my personal favorites. You probably won't see them too much. It was always a bonus when I would get one of these, and you guys might think totally otherwise. But how about the 100 grand bar?
Uh,
Okay, 100 grand, if I'm remembering this right, is almost like a more compact version of the Crunch Bar with a little bit of nougat stuff in it, right?
Yeah, no nuts. I think it's got that rice and the
Yeah,
caramel, and yeah, it's pretty dense.
yeah. I'll give it a 4. I mean, again, I, I get no qualms with it. It's not number 1, but yeah, solid 4.
Okay.
well, I'll put a 2. I'm gonna put a 2. I like the mix. I'm gonna leave a spot open in case there's something else that's better. But I like the mix with you get the little peanut butter in there and a few other things. I'm a fan. I'll put it number 2.
Does that have peanut butter?
I don't know, maybe
I thought it was
No,
more
I
of
don't
like
think
a
so. No.
caramel.
Kind of
Yeah,
a nougat. It's got
but
some
with
nougat
the
kind
all
of mixes in
important
there.
nougat, which none of us should even pretend to know what nougat is. But
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. There's
right.
got to be some peanuts in there somewhere. I'm sure of it.
I don't think so in the 100 grand. I could be
But
wrong.
the nougat includes that business. I'm sure.
Yeah, true, true. All right. Let's go with probably the country's all-time favorite, I would say, year in and year out. And I don't know where you guys stand on this, but the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
yeah, number 1.
Number
And
one.
because we have a nut allergy at my house, I very, very, I can't have them at home, and I very rarely have them out and about. So it's a particular treat when I can have them. I mean, safety first at home, obviously, but if I am out and about and I am offered a Reese's, you better believe I will imbibe.
All right, both you guys have 1 and 5 left. So Willie, it's either 1 and 5 for you.
Yeah, I gotta put it number 1. No risk, no reason to take a chance. I mean, like it's not my super favorite, but there's no reason to take a chance, and it's definitely better than the other stuff I have at 3 and 4. So, 5 could be a tough one if it's a good thing here, but that's a risky take.
All right. Well, for number 5, I was gonna do the Mike and Ike's.
Oh,
I don't know where you guys would have that, but they're going in your number 5 spot. But that's a pretty good candy.
It is, but I'm comfortable with it at number 5.
yeah, me
I think a
too.
little go a long way with those.
Yeah.
You get chewing, they get stuck in your teeth. You gotta, you know, really brush them good, and then get the floss to get the other, maybe even a little toothpick to get them out. And I don't know.
That's
I mean, they're tasty, but I don't think I'd ever go to a Mike and Ike. So I'm happy with that 5.
all right.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I mean, I thought you were gonna pull out like a Twix or a Nerds or something really good, but
Bounds, Yeah.
My
Yeah,
guy
I
is
could have
choice,
made it
they're
a little
5.
tougher for you guys. My other one that I was thinking was Charleston Chew. I thought I'd throw that one on
Oh,
there.
that'd be like 11 for me. Yeah.
Those aren't my favorite either. But all right,
I
pretty
think
good list.
I'm happier with this list than any other list we've done, to be honest.
Yeah, we got Phil's. We got the Reese's peanut butter cup. We got Crunch Bar number 2, M&M, 100 grand, and Mike and Ike.
Yep.
Willie's got Reese's peanut butter cup number 1, 100 grand number 2, Crunch number 3, M&M 4, Mike and Ike 5.
So what would yours be?
I would go with the 100 grand number 1. I love the 100 grand. I'd go Reese's number 2. Probably go Crunch Bar 3, M&M 4, Mike and Ike 5.
Now, you probably did not have Reese's growing up, I'm guessing, because you had the nut allergy.
My first anything with peanuts, the first thing I ever ate, other than when I was maybe a year or 2 old when I found out that I was allergic. I grew out of this allergy for those listening, and the first thing I ever ate that had peanuts was a Reese's peanut butter cup. And man, I'll tell you, they say you don't know what you're missing if you hadn't had it before, and I had that, and I almost that was delicious. So still rank those pretty high on my list. Reese's peanut butter cup's always good, and Reese's Pieces. I love the Easter egg ones. Those are good.
Yeah.
Reese's eggs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, top tier candy for sure. But I've always liked the 100 grand, and I think it doesn't have peanuts now. I think about it because I've had those when I was younger. When I
Yeah,
still
that's
had,
what I thought.
yeah.
All right.
But anyway, all right, good stuff, fellas. Happy
Yeah.
all.
Spooky good today. Nice job, boys.
There you go.
He's Matt Williams. He's Nick Giannino. I'm Phil Stacy. Happy Halloween. We'll see you out at the state tournament.